Hello, hey, and hi everybody. Secondhand Dan coming to you from the Penny Pincher Workshop. What I've got in store is we're going to do a teardown video. I'm good for those. If you search some of my past videos, I tear things down and I don't put them back together. Only because the item's not needed, it's scrappable, it's a curiosity. So I thought, well, there's a lot of people want to know what's inside it. So I thought, let me show you what's inside this one. This was a curb find. We have a Power Sport. Is that a Tecumseh? What the heck is a Tecumseh? Tecumseh. I thought my glasses are dirty. I didn't know Tecumseh was still making motors, but that's an oldie. I'm sure it's old because it came from a house where the owner, I think, of the house died 10 years ago, and so who knows how long he had this beforehand. Same place the wagon came from there also, and I recall I used to live behind them. I don't live there anymore. My mom is like 2 doors up the road from them, but I used to see this wagon out in his yard all the time, and it's a Radio Flyer. Radio Flyer 18, is it? Okay, whatever that means. Maybe it's 18 inches off the ground. So I've got this Tecumseh Sport. Looks like it would make a good mini bike motor. But I have no mini bike. So, oh, my knees. So we're just going to tear it down and see what's inside it. So I'm going to get it up on the workbench. I'm not sure what it was operating when the previous owner had it. Maybe he picked it up at a flea market or something like that. It looks like it could have been on a snow blower or a rototiller or power washer. All right, it's got some wires dangling out of it. If you know what they're for, let me know. Generally, you don't need wires. It's got a kill switch right there, so not sure what the job of these particular wires were. I'm only going to guess, was it a remote shut-off, a tachometer, electric choke? All right, well, I'm going to get it up on the bench, and we're going to take it apart. Initially, I was planning on doing a outside teardown. I put up a canopy. That's in my last video. If you want to see me looking like an idiot trying to put that thing up. There's some other things in it too that don't make me look like an idiot, but last video I got too hot and bothered out there. I've got the air conditioner going here in the workshop. It's like probably about 88 degrees outside. It feels like it's over 100, so I figured the heck with doing it tear down outside right now. Let's do it on the inside. If you have any comments as to what exactly you think this motor came off of, go ahead and tell me. Tell me so. It doesn't look like it took a rope, so I think it's missing the front cover with the when I say that didn't take a rope, I mean, I'm old. I can remember when you used to wrap the rope around and then pull it. And you'd be left with, if it didn't start, you'd have to wrap the rope around again and pull it. So, evidently the cover's missing with the recoil. If this is your first time checking out one of my videos, Secondhand Dan, at your service. All right, it feels pretty good in here. It's 81 degrees according to the thermometer I keep over on my toolbox. So I've got tools. I've got so much in the way of tools. There's no thing stopping me from tearing this thing apart. I tore apart like a 1960 Honda motorcycle, and I only got so far. That was down in Florida, and I couldn't get it apart any further. I needed a correct puller. This here is a overhead valve. See, OHV, overhead valve. And it's a shield hot. Or, what's that say? Oh, that's the abbreviation for caution hot. I thought that was child hot. So, I guess the first thing we're probably going to pop off is the gas tank. And I've learned one thing when doing jobs like this. A lot of times, the parts are worth reselling. So, before I discard it all into the trash and the metal into the scrap yard, make sure they're not paying $25, $30 for the gas tank for one of these. Let's turn it on. Nothing. All right, well, here's a choke lever. Woo, that's tight. It doesn't move very far. The slot says it should go all the way up. I can see the screw back there hitting. All right, well, something's holding this gas tank on. And it can't just be floating there. Make a liar out of me, huh? Maybe, what's going on the bottom here? Okay, maybe that study there, and of course the hose clamp, the bolt, and there's one behind the hose as well. All right, we'll start out something simple here. I got my Craftsman 1/4" drive. I guess I may as well go ahead and get out an impact. I'm a DeWalt guy right now. I think if I wasn't DeWalt, I would probably be Milwaukee. All right, here's all my driving bits. So I need to find a 1/4" socket driver. Unless I happen to have just the right size. Yeah, I do, but I don't know. Well, I got an extension. Because I was going to say this will be a hard time fitting in there. Let's go ahead and take off that hose clamp before I get the gas tank flopping all over, and it's harder to work on the clamp if the tank is flopping. I don't think there's any fuel in this. Probably last time there was fuel and it was a decade ago or more. Huh? Let me look inside. No, I see nothing. There's a bolt inside there. Huh. I said, dry as a bone. These are interesting bolts. They got collars on them. That's to keep you from making it too tight. I guess it gives it just a little bit of vibration room. Something on the other side holding it now. I think it's just slid into the guard here. So maybe I just bop it. It looks like it should slide back this way. So let me get a bopper. The big bopper. Hello, baby. So I want to be gentle with it in case there's some resale on it. There we go. That is one clean looking gas tank. Where'd the bolt go? Did it fall out already? Disappearo. Make a liar out of me. Tell the people there's a bolt in there, and then I produce no bolt. Oh, it's still in there. It's wedged down in the corner. Let's see if we can get you a bird's eye view. Well, it's too dark and deep to get you a bird's eye view in there, so let me just pull it out. I might just actually be dislodging it rather than, quote, pulling it out, so. Okay, I was able to dislodge that with the big screwdriver. Had to be careful, too, because you don't want to be jamming down in there and cause a pinhole. And there's what was in there. That's a weird screw. I wonder if that was from the factory. Aluminum head. Well, the whole thing's aluminum. And it's very clean. So, I guess one clue would be if when taking this engine, too small. Way too small. Tools, sometimes they take a little beating and the metal deforms and doesn't want to let go. I'm not so much that this adapter is that much better. There's no name on it. But we'll take our chances. Too big. Just right. This is a fairly clean little motor, you know. If I was a motor shop, I would be excited thinking I got myself a reusable core here. I'll have to see if the muffler's resellable. See, now all this stuff, if I had a GoPro, I could get on my phone right now and bleep bloop and see if it's got value. But being that I'm using my phone as a camera, I can't do that, so we'll have to wait. Here's the intake. There's 2 bolts here on the intake. Come on over here. Two bolts. Well, I'm going to crank on this one, put a little more torque on it. If I strip it out, oh well, I'll put vice grips on it because it looks like the head of the screw is well exposed. It popped free. Still snuggish. Now this lever here, yes, it's operating on the carburetor, but it's also going inside the crankcase and operating something. So there must be a butterfly or something inside the crankcase. All right, that feels like it should be loose enough. I've got a little issue. The camera so far twice is cut off on its own, and it's not because the battery is totally dead. There's still like 25% battery, so I'm not sure what's up with that. Maybe it's this microphone setup is messing with it. Never did mess with it before, but there we go. Got that lever off. Now I should be able to unhook. Now I suspect there's oil in here. So that's why I have this pan on top of the workbench to, there we go. We was taking the bolts off. The cover stayed tight when I took off that cage around the muffler. So that did not affect it, which means it's better built. It's a good seal that way. Now this is a 10 millimeter socket and it feels a little sloppy. Could it be a 9 millimeter bolt? Well, it's not 11 meter, that's what I just picked up. Could it be it's SAE? Society of Automotive Engineers thread. Their dimensions. Here's my 3/8 drive, and I haven't put SAE written out on there. It's a bit faded, or I should retrace it. Yeah, it's a good fit. It's a 3/8. And just for such an occasion, I may as well just jump up to the bad boy here. It's a bit overkill. 1/2-inch drive, DeWalt, 20-volt max. That was a bit of an investment. Bought it brand new. So I need an adapter. Looking in my socket drawer here, I have the opposite, 3/8 up to 1/2. 2 of those, and I have a 3/8 to a 3/8. So I'm looking for something 1/2 inch down to 3/8. There's a 3/8 down to 1/4, another 3/8 down to 1/4, another 3/8 to 3/8. Not doing too good here. I used to work on cars, so I was a little more organized. I definitely would have. Here we go. 1/2 inch down to 3/8. Get me a battery. It's like it was not even there. Taking off the overhead valve cover. You know, on one hand, I feel a little guilty about, you know, breaking it down when I think, what if this is a Survivor and it would run? But I don't need it. And even if I just posted it as a whole, you know, you'd be lucky if somebody gave you 25 bucks. You have to deal with a lot of strange people trying to get 25 bucks out of this thing. Then I'll be like, well, it doesn't run, I'll give you 5. I mean, I haven't purposely worked on a small engine like this to repair it for probably been about 30 years. Can't remember the last time. I mean, I maybe tweaked the lawnmower a little bit, but this looks like it has a reed valve inside it. See that circle there? Yeah, it's spring-loaded, which means it's like a PVC valve. Allen keys. See that? So, I'm not sure. You would think this would be a metric all the way up, even though the lifter is off. Huh. Is that how you adjust them? Yeah, I guess you use a wrench and your Allen, and you would adjust the amount of play by how far down you draw it, and then you would lock the nut against there. If you think you know what year this was made, post it down in the comments. Nice push rod. Not sure what I could. All right. Back up, please. Back up. Okay, so what's coming off next? The intake, maybe? Yeah, let's go ahead and take the intake off. Gotcha. I'm done saving hardware. It's all going in the trash can. Ah, something's blocking this socket from getting on. Looks like you can only wrench it. So that is a 3/8. And even when you wrench it, you're going to have to use the open end. So I don't know how you feel about that. Where the engineers kind of dropped the ball there? That should be accessible with a socket. At the very least, the box end of a 3/8. Because I'm afraid, you know, I use the term loosely, that it's going to slip using the open end of a 3/8. So a guy at the flea market the other day, today's Tuesday, it was their Sunday, and he was selling some tools, and he had a set of snap-on wrenches. There may have been like 7 of them, 8 of them maybe, and he wanted $75. I mean, the condition would warrant it, except the fact that they were not metric. So, I don't know, that sounds like a little bit of a hard sell. Not too many people will invest that kind of money into a, well, that was easy, into a non-metric tool set, even if it is name brand. But okay, we are hitting the intake. But there's enough play here to pull it back.
You put that up for old, huh? Somebody's here.
Okay, well, there is one tiny sheet metal screw over here. Maybe a metric socket will be close enough. No, it's too big. Too small. Yeah, I'm going to have to find the proper size SAE for that one. Alright, it's a 1/4 inch drive. 1/4 inch. I could have used a 1/4 inch nut driver but this is just as easy to pick out of the drawer right now. I bought a set of new nut drivers last year, and it's amazing how many choices there are. Whether the size is printed on it, melted into it, whether it's on the part where your grip is, or whether it's on top of the grip, whether the number's on the shaft, whether it's got a deep throat in it for long studs, or there's so many choices in something as simple as a nut driver. So I went with the ones I went with after mulling them over for a while. Okay, this carburetor's held on by a hose, which is held on by a spring-loaded hose clamp, which is kind of hard to get to. I could, if I had some right-angled pliers, that would be cool. I do, I just don't know where they're at. They're in my showroom somewhere. All right. All right, I got it up there. It's out of the way. I don't imagine there's even any sense in researching to see if somebody wants to buy a used carburetor. I doubt that. Okay, let go, hoses. It spins, but it don't want to let go. Ugh, there we go. Carburetor with the manifold. Still good moving carburetor. Snaps back. Okay, what to do next? I guess we, let's take, there's another heat shield on here. Let's take that heat shield off. I guess I should take the front cover off as well. Why they need two different size sheet metal screws, I don't know. This cover screw over here is 1/4 and over here was 5/16. So like I said, I got this motor and that wagon, and I also picked up something else, and I'll do a video of itself, and I'll just give you a clue. That object is probably like 90 years old, and it's like industrial in nature. So there's your clue as to what's up and coming. This can't be ridiculously old. It has a barcode on it down here. But that really gets me the fact that they have SAE rather than metric on it. I mean, I'm not mad at them. I just would have expected metric. And anything that was, you know, last 20, even 30 years. Remember when they tried to get us to go with metric gasoline measurements? That didn't pan out too well. But we still have 2 liters of Coke, but you can't get 2 liters of gas. Well, you can get 2 liters of gas, you just don't say that on the pump. So you need a 2-liter bottle, or you got to do the math. But there's no need to do that. Why would anybody want precisely 2 liters of gas? Okay, there's a heat shield. There's a 10, well, that's a 3/8 on the top of the shield here. There's a lot of gun to be picking up. Down in Florida, I have a 3/8 drive. But up here, I bought this because I figured I'm going to be taking lug nuts off. Yeah, it doesn't like this battery. And the battery was just charged. But I guess the amount of current this pulls messes with the battery. The battery shuts off for a moment. Okay. Held on by a wire or two. Let me pop these off and then get you in here. There's a coil in here. But this is still an electronic type ignition. There's no points in it. It's pointless. I guess that's what, still a magneto? Now this was in the, I said it was in the neighbor's trash, and I'm not so sure if the trash man would have taken it. So, fortunately, they live just 2 doors down the street from my mom, and I came with the red wagon, and the other object was sitting on the curb, so I was just able to pull it up the street. And I parked it at the top of my mom's driveway, and that was the Sunday night. So I went to go retrieve it because Sunday we were in the car. So we went back, kind of worked out. The wife had forgotten the phone on Sunday. So late Monday afternoon, we went back to retrieve her phone. I said, well, I'm going to take the truck and retrieve the stuff I had set aside. And what you know, they had rolled the wagon with the contents down to the curb for the garbage man. I'm like, why? So, well, we thought you dropped it off there to be thrown out. All right, well, I guess it's an honest mistake, but it's been years since I took my trash over to my mom's for any reason. It used to be when I did clean-outs, I get hired to clean out a house, you know, I would take advantage of my mom's place, the wife's daughters, my home I own over in White Oak, it's a borough over here, and the home I own myself in Monroeville, to disperse the trash, because I didn't want them to be hip to the fact that I was doing clean-outs and have them say, well, that's just too much trash and you're constantly doing it. We're not taking it. So I would spread the wealth around. All right, this magneto is there's some fine thread on it? No. Or maybe there's some Loctite on it. It's coming off, it's just slow. And not only that, there's another one on the other side. That's what this magnet here swings. Here, come on in. It swings past this magneto, and that helps produce the spark. And the magneto, there's slotted screw holes here, so you can adjust how close the magneto is to this magnet. All right, well, the cover is off. Clean little cover. I'll look it up on the internet and make sure nobody's in need of a cover for their Tecumseh. Tecumseh, that was named after an Indian tribe. And there's, or am I thinking it, am I thinking right? Was it Tecumseh? Yeah. Named after the Indian. I think they used to have an Indian head logo on their motors. So I think it became politically incorrect to have the image of the Indian head on your motor. I thought I would pay you some tribute, but they stopped using it. All right, well, here's the magneto. It goes to the spark plug. All right, well, this is where this is going to shine, right? I've got a big nut in the center of this holding the flywheel on. So let me get a 1/2-inch drive socket for that. Is it a 1-inch? No, 1 inch is coming out, it's too small. 5/16, no. Okay, that was some deep wells I was looking at. Let me look at my shallows. Here's a 26 millimeter, I don't know about that. Here's a 1 1/8. Oh, I'm looking at the washer thinking it's bigger than it actually is. So it's smaller than a 1 inch. When I put that 1 inch on there and didn't feel it bite, I thought it was sliding around on top of it. Okay, that's a little loose. That's 13/16. 3/4 here. 3/4 is spot on. All right, that did easy work. Now the next thing would be to get the flywheel off. And that's what I see as being a diff. Oop, 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 oop. I poured oil right out the top of the head there onto the table. Well, lack of experience will cause you to do things like that. So let me get the bulk of that cleaned up. All right, well, I'm going to sweep that into the bowl. I wish I knew where a squeegee was. I have a piece of cardboard will work. I'll sweep it right off the edge of the table into this bowl. I mean, the oil's dirty, but I've seen a lot worse. Makes me wonder, why did this little guy have to die? Well, we don't know officially that he's dead, but we're treating him like he is. All right. It's a mess I would have rather not have made, but glad it wasn't all over the floor. It's a lot easier on the table than the floor. The floor. Okay, and I'll follow up with a rag. You gotta remember not to throw your oily rags out inside the house unless you have a fireproof container. So I will take these outside and throw them in the garbage can out there. Because if spontaneous combustion was to occur, you'd have an inside fire. Especially when the weather's hot like this. It increases the possibility. Couple of drips down there on the floor. All right, well, I'm going out to the trash. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Okay, the last thing I said I was doing was getting rid of the dirty paper towels after cleaning up some oil spill, because I didn't want them in here. But you may have noticed a change in my attire. It's the following day, so I'm going to finish this up and move on to the next project. But in the midst of tearing this down, I've made quite the mess on the workbench. Not going to clean it all up, but I think I should get a couple of things out of the way, just to, for posterity's sake. So let me do that, and then I'll be back with you. All right, well, I managed to get a couple of things off the workbench, some clutter, but there's still some things here. I'm going to throw out some of this hardware that's been coming off this engine. I could show you, I have bins and boxes and drawers and just too much hardware. So unless it's something exceptional or very popular and I'm running low on, I just tend to throw it all out anymore. I worked in the transmission shop. We used to have a 55-gallon drum. I think like a third of it had been cut off and welded on top of the other 2/3, and it was full of hardware from transmissions over the years. So if the guys lost a bolt, they'd have to spend some time rooting through there in hopes to find the replacement for it. I worked in the transmission shop for 5 years. Well, directly and indirectly, because there was a machine shop up around back, and I worked in the machine shop for the majority of my tenure there. But I did do some removing and replacing transmissions in automobiles while I was there. And I was just starting to get into actually doing some of the rebuilds of the transmissions. And the funny thing was, you know, I went to school to become an automotive mechanic and went to the transmission shop, and they hired me and put me in a machine shop, which worked out. I mean, I was there for 5 years, so. And I learned some skills, other than the skills I had when I got there from doing some machining stuff. I wouldn't call it precision machining, but you did have to have a decent amount of accuracy. We would cut torque converters in half, take the guts out, wash them, clean them, replace the damaged parts, and weld them back closed again. So, still cleaning up this oil spill, huh? It's actually going up to, I think, 96 degrees today. I think yesterday it was only maybe about 94, so we'll see. Oh, about this gas tank. I looked it up, and you can get new aftermarket replacements, and most people are selling for like $37, $38 with free shipping. So just for general purposes to see what would happen, this is pretty nice condition. I put it on the eBay, and I said $25 plus $5 shipping. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, like I said, I've got a small tank to keep around in case I get a little project that needs some fuel to test it out. So we took this off the crankcase, and that's when oil started spilling out, as it came out of the top of the where the valves are. So we're going to see about getting this off. Now, I do projects like this to tear apart just because it keeps my skills sharp. Plus, it also tells me if I'm missing any tools that I might not otherwise come across unless I was doing a project like this. Now, this is I guess a flywheel. It's keyed on there. It's a bit of a snug fit. I mean, first thing is just see if it comes off with a slight pry. Every once in a while they do. Most of the time you need a puller of some sort. And I'm not even sure where you would, quote, get a puller on this one. There's no screw holes in the flywheel, so you can't mount your puller and run 2 bolts down in there. And there's very little lip to try and get one with some claws on it. So the old-fashioned way is just to smack it with a hammer while lifting up on the flywheel. So I'm going to try that. I would generally exercise a little more caution when doing that if this was a motor that, quote, I was repairing and needed, but I would be worried about damaging the threads, and I would probably put the nut back on just level with the top of the stud here, the crankshaft stud, to keep from marring up the threads. But I'm not so much worried about that right now. So it'd be nice if I had another person to lift it up while I bopped it, but well, let's try bopping it sideways. Well, yeah, success. There we go. Make a nice doorstop. It's got more magnets on it, and it's got quite a bit of dusty dirt inside. Not sure how much that would affect its performance. Probably better off without it, that's for sure. And this is the stator, that multiple coils of wire. So that's the stator. I had a washing machine. Was the big drum where you put your clothes in went down inside, and there was a stator underneath it to make it spin. So it was like a direct drive, so you didn't need a belt on that particular washing machine. All right, so the stator needs to come off. I'm going to crack open my energy drink. C4. Looks a little bit prissy with the pink, but I'm not even sure what flavor it's supposed to be. I bought a case off of Amazon. That's funny because I know it comes in more than one flavor, but it doesn't say a flavor on here. It just says energy you can feel. Okay. Are any of you into energy drinks? Let me know. I mean, how is C4? Is it the average energy drink? A poor excuse of an energy drink? Or do you consider it to be a good one? I know I watched some people like the Monsters, and I can't say necessarily after drinking some of this that I'm bouncing off the walls, and most of the time I maybe nurse it over the next couple hours, and I've been known not to even finish them and put them back in the refrigerator, and to my surprise they're still fizzy when I get back to them hours later or a day later. It is sweet. 200 milligrams of caffeine, 0 colors, 0 sugar. Put it out over there so I don't knock it over. Okay, I'm going to destatorize it. That's what those wires were I was questioning earlier. I need my downsized adapter. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm blaming it on the battery. This thing's hesitant. It usually takes 2 pulls of the trigger. Now this I can probably just throw in my scrap pile with my other electric motors, and I'll get credit for it being an electric motor when I go scrapping. Too big. Okay, it looks like we're going to be going back down to the 1/4 inch sizes here. Too big. A little sloppy. Too small. Well, it's a little sloppy, but I don't think it's so sloppy that it's not going to work. There we go with the jammed socket in here again. I didn't even have to do that just yet. I need the adapter. There it is. The conversion to the 1/4-inch drive. Taking off a backing plate. See how this one doesn't hesitate at all? So that's fuel line. What is that, a seal protector? There's a key that's I'm going to have to, it's called a Woodruff key. I'm going to have to make sure it comes out so as I don't struggle to get the side of the crank out. So a pair of diagonals, or sometimes called as side cutters, you can get a bite on a key and just leverage it out of there. Okay, that's coming right out. Now there's a little collar. Okay, I guess when you take this spark plug out, speaking of spark plugs, I just worked on my pickup truck a couple days ago. Was driving it and it was like banging, and in the shifts I thought, oh no, maybe it's low on transmission fluid. But then I realized it was banging in several different gears, and I thought, well, that isn't necessarily conducive with being low on transmission fluid, in my experience. I mean, but anyway, then the check engine light came on, and I got it home. I backed off the amount of throttle I was giving it, and not only did the check engine light come on, it was blinking, and they said that's worse than just having it come on steady. Once it starts blinking, you're looking at some trouble. But like any dude usually said, well, can I at least nurse it and get it home? So I nursed it, and the light went out, and I just continued to moderate throttle and got it home and put the testing, the OBD2 on it, and it said cylinder 2 had a misfire. So I went and took the plug out, the coil off, looked at the plug, spark plug, and dang if that thing didn't look sweet. It was nice. I mean, you would have thought they were put in 5,000 miles ago. And I never changed the plugs on that thing. And it's got like almost 140,000 miles on it. At 100,000 when I bought it. And I'm pretty sure they're factory plugs, because when you look at the top of the spark plug when you take it out, the very top, there is a little dab of yellow paint. And that's indication that the factory, it was their plug. And so the people that owned the vehicle before me did not change the spark plug. So when I saw that plug look really good, I said, it must be the coil. You know, I was thinking about going online and seeing how do you bench test the coil, with the ohm meter and stuff like that. But when I saw the plug was looking real sweet, I said, well, let me just buy some coils for it. So I went to, I think it was AutoZone, and they said, we don't have the single coil, you'll have to buy the whole pack, a 6-pack, because I have a 3.5, and I'm thinking, well, 2 years ago, I know I had a coil go bad on it, and I said, I don't want to buy a whole set of coils. And so I went to, I think, O'Reilly's. They had it, but they wanted $90 for one coil. I'm like, $90? I'm pretty sure the last time I bought a coil, maybe it was like $45, $50. So I said, I'll get back to you on that. I went back out to my car, and watch this. Every time I squeeze the trigger, the first time, there's nothing happens. See how it stopped? Then I squeeze again. So I went to my car and pulled up Amazon, and I saw some prices for coils. I said, I like their prices a lot better. So I just went home, and eventually I ordered, I try to get the best for the money. And to be honest, none of the names were names I recognized. And I even would search those names online to see if those coils had any reviews. But yeah, the typical Amazon reviews were there. But so I went ahead and pulled the trigger, and I got 6 coils for like $86. So $86 a piece. What was it, like $13 a coil, and the auto parts wants $90? I'm like, come on, couldn't you at least maybe charge $40 for one coil? So I just bought the generic coils online and slapped one in there, and it's been operating fine ever since. And like a friend of mine said, well, aren't you worried that the cheap coil is going to go bad? I said, I don't care if it goes bad in 10,000 miles. I've got 5 more backups. So I'm happy with that purchase. Oh, look at that. I was able to take the valve spring retainer off with just my fingers. This is a nice looking little motor. It's a shame that I didn't know anybody that was into motors. I could say, hey, good buddy, friend, pal with the motor shop, you could have this, then they would owe me a favor sometime. You got your intake and exhaust. The intake is a little smaller than the exhaust, because once the gas is heated and ignited, it takes up more space, so you need more room to get it out easier. So they go with a bigger exhaust valve than they do the intake, because this intake fuel coming in is not as expanded as the exhaust gases. So this looks like a good piece of scrap aluminum. I'm not sure how I can't tell, is there metal seats in there or not? I know there's some seals up on top. I can see a metal retaining ring holding the seal in. Yeah, those are seats in there, so they would have to come out in order for this to be pure aluminum scrap. So it's a gray area as to how the scrapyard would feel about if I just threw that in there with the rest of my aluminum. I try and be fair. I try and keep it, like 99% clean if I can, throwing out them head bolts. But I don't want to, struggle to get those out, just so I can get $2 worth of scrap aluminum. Watch the piston. Up, down. Up, down. The cylinder wall looks pretty good in there. Yeah, it looks really good in there. I can't help but feel a little bit guilty about dismembering this thing. But I'm sure, in the big picture of life, there's no shortage of random functioning little motors. If it was something rare, I would have looked for a buyer for it, because then you get rare kind of dollars out of it. But like I said, if I put this motor online there, everybody's going to say, does it work? I'm going to say, I don't know. Well, if you don't know, I'm going to give you, $15 for it. And then there'll possibly be a no-show after agreeing to do that. So I don't need that kind of hassle. I'm having fun tearing it apart. Head gasket. Okay, I guess next we move on to the crank bolts on the side. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8. And at some point, I would like to take apart a V8 motor. I mean, I've taken them apart in the past, not like this, just to throw them in the scrapyard, but, you know, when I went to trade school, or I've done 4-cylinder motors and rebuilt them, but that's been almost an eon ago, huh? And I would like to do it with my son. You know, he has an interest in cars, but his interest is not deep, that unless he actually owned a classic or something. But he watches those car shows sometimes when we have family night. So I think he'd still get a kick out of tearing apart a V8 and listen to his old man explain how they work. And unfortunately, the grandson, he's only 3.5, so he's not going to appreciate it yet. But we would probably keep him nearby in the shop, because he likes to futz with the toolbox behind me, and that's how you get him started. He does make a mess, but rather than chastise him for making a mess of my tools, you know, I figured that's how he's going to pique his interest in mechanics. All right, now I'm looking for the proper size socket. No, I got this proper size. I'm looking for the adapter. It's over here. I'm gonna try. See, with nothing on it, it kicks all the time. But when I put it to the socket, there's usually a hesitation when I go to impact mode. So let's try it. Okay, now let's see what happens when I change batteries. I've got the bigger battery over there. And right now it's attached to my drill. And I got this several years ago, and I feel like I got snookered because I was a little bit too quick to pull the trigger and buy it, and thinking it was a DeWalt, but, you know, colors and all. But it's been working. But see, I noticed no hesitation there, because I think the amperage . See, this time I got a drain pan under it, but probably 90% of it's already been drained. Okay, one. This is a nice collection of bolts. I think I'll throw this bunch in my bolt drawer. I can tell you over here, I've got this gauge sizer. They are, no, they are quarter 20. Quarter 20, that's SAE size. Let me show you my sizer. I could have just brought it over. You can see I got it in there. Quarter 20 was very, very popular back in the day, but they're probably switching to metric, so they're not going to be as popular anymore. But being that I work with a lot of old things, being that I'm secondhand Dan, I come across things constantly that are old sized. Okay, we're gonna have to crack this case open. Sound like one of the Hardy Boys. If you know who the Hardy Boys are, comment down below. Let's crack this case. She's opening. I'm about 90% sure this thing could have been resurrected. I mean, If anything was wrong, it probably would have been the carburetor. There's a governor. I'm surprised it just doesn't just lift out of there. I guess they would call this an idler gear, driven by the crankshaft, and then on the idler gear is your camshaft. And there's some nice cam lobes on there. So we know that part was functioning. Okay. Crankshaft is attached to the piston. So we're going to have to remove the piston bolt. And there are some small piston bolts in there. My hand's getting all oily. They are, dang, they look like they're about 6 millimeter. Let's see, 7, 6 is already out. It's laying on my bench somewhere. Where are you, 6? Okay, yeah. Well, it must be on the end of a socket or something. No, I was going to say it's in the gun. It's not in the gun. All right, where are you? Found it. Done in here. In my haste to put things away, I put it in the wrong rack. And 6 is too big. But I needed to find that socket anyway. 7? Why would you go to... Well, remember, these are going to be SAE, though. So 7 is not going to work. So it must be... It's not 3/8. Is it 5/16? Okay, I have to go to the socket drawer. It's been a while. I need to get a rack of sockets with SAE on them in 1/4" drive. I don't have that right now. I'm sure I keep digging through my loose sockets. Let's try down here. Well, there's 5/16. 5/16 is too big. So you take 1/16 off of it, you're left with 4/16, which is the same as 2/8 is 2/8 is a 1/4". So I need a 1/4" socket. All right, well, it took some doing, but I found the one and only 1/4" drive socket I have. So I'm glad I have it. Maybe I will look into getting a, because you can get things pretty cheap on eBay as far as sets. Maybe I can find a 1/4" drive set of deep well sockets for like $15, $5 shipping or something. Now once I broke it free, it should come out just like finger tight, because the environment it's in, there's no corrosion or rust, and it is turning. A ratchet wouldn't work because it'd be going back and forth. It wouldn't engage. It would just tight, loose, no matter which way you have the ratchet turned on. So now if you had a like a powered ratchet, you just hold it and it would drive it out. Now here, may as well pop these out while I'm standing here. These are the lifters. They're identical in size. They rode on the camshaft. What do I do with my camshaft? Oh, right here. Each one rides on a camshaft, and they go up and down, pushing the push rods up and down, which push the rocker arm up and down, which pushes down on the valve stem to open it and close it as needed. Okay, I got one more crankshaft bolt to back off, then the piston will be able to come out. I mean, if I was a little bit of a gearhead, I would have sat on this engine and said, you know what, someday I'm going to build a go-kart, but I'm not a gearhead per se, so I dabble in a lot of things. I have fun. I mean, I don't have any deep regrets about taking this apart, trashing it out. At least I saved it from going directly to the trash or directly to the scrap yard, as it was in the neighbor's trash, and a scrapper could have just rode by and threw it on their truck and taken it directly to the scrap yard. Here's the end cap to the piston. See if I rotate this, push the piston up. Okay, now the piston rod is out of the way. Now the crankshaft comes out. This is a well-built little engine. Well-built. I mean, I haven't torn a lot of these apart, but I'm not easily impressed, but this one looks like they did a nice job. So, thumbs up to Tecumseh. And taking the piston all the way out. Rings look nice and clean. I'm not even sure. I remember the lever being attached to this. So in this, there's a little butterfly inside. Well, that's what I'm calling it. So what did that, if I retrace my steps, that's close to the idler gear with the camshaft on it. Well, that's to do with the governor. Yeah. See, the governor went on. That lever affected the governor. Which reminds me, why doesn't this pop out? It just needs a slight pry. That feels kind of tight. Is there a pin in there? I see nothing holding it in place. Nothing on the back side, so why doesn't it just lift out of there? Probably because maybe the shaft is pressed in and this is slid on, right? Is there some kind of retainer? Yeah. Oh, well, the shaft wants to lift off. I don't see a clip of any kind. Okay. Yeah, I figured out what's holding it on there. This plastic gear has a tiny little tab in the center of it on both sides. And those there's a groove cut in the shaft, and I think those tabs, with a little bit of tension on, tend to fall into that groove. So with the right tool, I should be able to pull those tabs open and slide that up off the shaft. See, that's why I say this is learning something for me. Just not sure how easy this is going to cooperate. I got my dental tool. Problem is there's one on each side, so you just can't pry back one and slide it off. I'm going to have to put it in the vise. I need to stabilize it. There's not a whole lot of things to grip on. I mean, if I go sideways, yeah, but I would have preferred to be the other direction. But let's try it this way. Dental tool, dental tool. There it is. Yeah, it feels easier. Okay, I got one tab. Keep the tension pulling up on the gear. Come around and pry up on the other tab. There we go. I done did it. Got it off. I said there are tabs that keep it on the shaft, which is press fit into the side cover. So I guess we are pretty much done with taking this apart. I can take off this governor shaft. It has a traditional snap ring on it, has the two holes in it. So I've got the tool for that. So I've got several snap ring with the tiny little noses on there. Actually, I had to order these little snap rings. Not dropped it. I was going to say I'll put that in the collection of the snap rings I purchased. I was working on a Kirby vacuum cleaner, and it had a shaft that took one of those, and I was needing one in order to repair it, in order to sell it. So it was worth the, I think it was like $10 on Amazon for a box of those different size snap ring pliers. You can see I got the governor actuator, as I called it earlier, the butterfly. And that would actuate the governor. When you applied more throttle, it would lift the shaft, cause the governor to open and close. Okay, now a little bit of oil left. Here's the oil that came out of it. So let's add to it. Not a whole lot there. So this is going to be, this is a clean piece of scrap aluminum, I think. I don't see a, is there a steel ring in it? Well, we'll find out with a magnet. I don't think there's any reason for there to be a steel ring at the top of the cylinder. Nothing's riding on it. But it's so shiny. Yeah, that's nothing but aluminum here. There's some drain plugs on here, which I should have actuated and drained it earlier instead of making a mess on my workbench. There's one on this side as well. Oh, sorry. Drain plug here, drain plug there. And there you are, national pipe thread. Means it's the same kind of thread that you use on gas line in your house. So, crankshaft seal, that popped right out. All right, well, we are done here dissecting a Tecumseh scrapping it out. There's that shaft that was pushed in for the oh, I got a dipstick in this thing. Ain't that cute? For the, that's the governor shaft. So if I want to scrap this piece of aluminum, you have to just cut this off, because I don't know, it's worth trying to pry that out. I might try putting it in the vise and then smacking the rest of it and see if it doesn't pull out. I ain't gonna put too much effort in it, but the block is clean, except for I got two more drain plugs. There's one on the side there. It's got a Allen on it. And of course, there's this one's got the square on it. All right, well, I appreciate your hanging out with me, so give me a thumbs up. Give me a nice comment. I had a comment on a video I put up a year ago. Somebody said, it took too long. Well, it's one of my most popular videos, and he's the only one that commented, so. All right, well, this is Secondhand Dan saying, gotta answer the phone. Bye.